Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources.
So automation is it's basically just something's happening on your behalf. Think about it as if you have an assistant and you're saying, can you do this for me? And then they do it for you. And automation is just a robot assistant, essentially. This ties into, productivity in general, but it's like the big domino or Gary Keller, the one thing. And it's such a great question to ask yourself, especially when it comes to building some sort of automation. And that's, what's the one thing I can do that by doing that would make everything else easier or totally unnecessary?
You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and if you're new to the podcast, I want to take a moment to welcome you. With so many choices out there, I'm truly thankful you're joining in the conversation here. If you've been listening for a while, then I hope you know how much I appreciate you. But I'm happy to repeat it every time you're here. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're getting so much value from these conversations. And if you know someone who would benefit from listening, please share this episode or the podcast page, positivelyproductive.com/podcast, with them. It's a simple way to support someone else, and it supports me and my mission to reach and inspire more people every day. In today's episode, we're demystifying automation for business with my guest, James Allen. Originally a productivity coach, James was obsessed with how to work fewer hours while simultaneously growing his income, which led him to learn about creating passive income with digital products. As the founder of ProfitYourKnowledge.com, James has a passion for helping people turn their knowledge, ideas, and skills into an automated income that not only gives them more money, but also more freedom and fulfillment. Today, James walks us through the simplest steps to go from creating a lead magnet to automating emails so you can connect with more leads without having to do more. The key with this is automation. Once you set it up, it's hands off for you, freeing you up to focus on more important things. This is another example of what I mean when I say make space for what matters. It doesn't take much to prime our productivity this way, and you'll love how easy James makes this. In our conversation, we talk about the process, which you can then apply to a platform of your choosing. James covers the benefits of being on YouTube, and he also loves Kajabi as his email platform. It's definitely the Cadillac of email systems, so if you're new to this, you may want to consider others like MailerLite or MailChimp, which we compare in episode 96 with Monica Pitts. She mentioned some other options in there as well, as I recall. And I personally use ConvertKit, and it's treated me very well. Most email systems can handle a simple automation sequence like we discussed today. Remember, like any habit, start small and start simply. Once you get things in place, you can add more bells and whistles if needed. Now let's join James to learn the steps to create a simple, effective, lead-generating email automation. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast, James Allen. I am delighted to chat with you today.
Yeah, I'm stoked to be here. I love the conversation of productivity and just efficiency.
Yeah, that's definitely in the Venn diagram of life, a place where we strongly overlap. So before we dig into today's topic du jour, I'd love it if you'd tell us a bit about who you are and who you help. And here's my favorite part of the question. You can always start with this. What makes you light up?
What makes me light up is the idea that we can share our knowledge and get paid for it. And there's obviously a lot more to that, like nuance, but I've been able to send an email sharing knowledge and make $5,000 or more. I think that's so cool. And what's crazy is there's people who are just, they're grinding and working so hard for a paycheck. They're working so hard to make, $1,000 or $500. And I just think it's so cool that every single one of us has something inside of us that is so valuable to other people, and so many other people. Doesn't have to be the entire world, but just a small handful of them, that they would be willing to pay you money that could replace that income that you're working so hard for. I just think that's so cool.
And it's inspiring too. And let this be a wonderful place to land. Like, we're barely 2 minutes in, and thinking about, like, when you have those moments where you're like, who am I to share this information? Who are you not to share this information? It's absolutely something someone needs out there. And on top of inspiring and creating this ripple effect, you can make the money you need to support you and your family. Yeah, it's inspiring.
Yeah, it's amazing. And when you start making $1,000 a month, and it's happening automatically, sharing something that you're passionate about, and then it turns into $2,000 a month, and then $5,000, you're like, this is so cool. And yeah, I hear from people all the time, I want to teach relationships or fitness, but there's so many people in the space. What do I do in this saturated market? I don't think I'm going to be able to stand out. No one wants to hear my voice or whatever. There's enough people. You don't need the entire world. You just need a small percentage of the population that can pay you, that's willing to pay you. And then you'd be surprised at how fast that can actually add up. And what I always tell people, if they're concerned that no one's going to care about them or what they're saying, because they're just, all the information's already out there. Everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since no one was listening, everything must be said again. And that's from the book Steal Like an Artist. And it's so great. If you have imposter syndrome, read that book, Steal Like an Artist, because I had it for so long, especially getting into the make money online space. Very crowded. It's very saturated. And I can still build a business. And I'm not like a multimillionaire or anything. I'm not even a millionaire. But I make a good income doing this. And that's what I need. And I'm able to do the cool things that I want to do with my life. And that's fine. I don't need to be this massive, huge guru person. I like helping people, and teaching this stuff. And it's fun for me. And I like nerding out on sales copy and that sort of stuff. So it works for me. But I've been able to help other people who teach credit, people who help people transition out of the military, leadership, fitness. Like, there's so many different things that I've helped people do. And what makes you different is you. It's your voice, the way you speak, your tonality, more importantly, your stories that you have, not just your origin story, but I firmly believe that what makes you different and what makes you stand out, and it comes down to the stories that you tell. It's your experience with the thing that you're teaching.
Yeah, so that's a masterclass right there in dealing with imposter syndrome for sure. It's not only that people need to hear things multiple times, but they need to hear it in a specific way. And you're right, that's where you come in. And so with that, we each have different stories, different origin stories as to how we got where we are. And I do think my origin story for productivity is so important. It taps into creatives and caregivers, and they understand that I get them and they've lived that. Now, your story is actually one of starting in productivity and then shifting into doing what you're doing now. Do you share a bit about that?
Out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was either college or go into construction work, which is what my dad did. And he made a 6-figure income, had really good benefits, and I could get college credit. So I was like, I'm going to go into construction. And I did it. And I realized shortly after, I don't want to do this for 40 years. It was a 5-year apprenticeship, but I left at 4 years, and people thought I was insane. They're like, you're so close to being vested, because then you can always come back. And I'm like, but I don't want to come back. So I'm good. And I learned, eventually about coaching and teaching. And I was always really big in personal development at a young age. I got really into it because I was really insecure, and it helped me with confidence and that sort of stuff. I realized that, I look at Tony Robbins or Jack Canfield or these big mentors that I like, and I could be like that. I don't want to be them, but I want to be my own way. And I could be like that and turn that into my job. And I love learning from these different people. the more I read about it, the more I fell in love with the industry. And I decided to finally just go for it, get certified. So I got certified through a coaching institute by Mary Morrissey, learned a ton about how to coach people. And I was helping people with life coaching, like spiritual life coaching. And eventually I got kind of burnt out on it. And that's when I made a shift to productivity, because I'm much more focused on, I'm much more analytical and very systematic with the way that I think. And then from there, I learned about digital products and automations because I was obsessed with the idea of how can I work fewer hours and continuously grow my income. You know, I don't want to work more than 20 hours a week in my business and my income can still grow. And that's what I've stuck with. There's always more that you can do, but because you're working 80 hours a week doesn't necessarily mean that you're being productive for 80 hours. And that's pro tip right there, by the way. Force yourself to work in shorter work bursts and give yourself fewer amount of hours to work each day or week. And it's going to force you to be more productive because it forces you to weed out the tasks that are actually totally unnecessary.
And it's Parkinson's law right there, right?
It is.
However much time you're giving yourself, you'll probably take that amount of time. So why not cut it down? And
and it forces you to see things differently. So that was a big idea that I had, and I just translated that to my business. But then I learned about digital products, online courses, and that sort of stuff. And I built like 6 of them, trying to build funnels and this sort of stuff. It didn't make any money. And then I built 5 of them. And then on the 6th one, I learned from a couple new mentors like Graham Cochran or Ramit Sethi. Those are my big mentors. And they just kind of taught me how online business works. And then I implemented the stuff they were talking about. Biggest thing that helped me actually like make it work was customer research and really listening to my audience and building everything off of that. That was the number one thing. So I started to create this new product, finally launched it, was like, fingers crossed, I hope I make a sale. And I made $200 in my sleep, like literally in my sleep. I woke up, opened up my computer, was like, what? And I freaked out and ran over to my girlfriend, was just like yelling. And she's like, what are you doing? And she almost had a heart attack. I just ran back to my computer. And then I sit down and I'm like, did I ever meet this person? Like, do I know who this person is? Because I could sell courses, but it was always on a call, like a down sell or me being like, hey, I have this cool course that you can take. It was never just autopilot. And I looked and I'd never seen a person in my life. A few weeks later, I made another sale, but this time it was $297, so $300. And it was the same product. I had 2 different tiers for it. And it was a productivity course. And it wasn't even like a make money online course or anything like that, which people think is like, oh, you have to do that if you're going to make money with courses. It's not true. So that's pretty much what led me to it. And I was meeting with my productivity clients and I always asked them what's a win since the last time we spoke. And some of them wanted to know what my wins were because we become friends, you know. They're like, well, what's a win for you, James? And then I told them I built this program, this system. It's been selling passively for me, which has been awesome. I've done like $10,000 days in my business. And to make $200 or $300 completely hands off was the coolest thing. It was way cooler because I realized if I could do that once, I could do it 100 or even 1,000 times because it's all automated. And then I was meeting with my clients and then they started to ask me, can you help me with that? And that's where I started to get my imposter syndrome of like, I'm not this huge like business person, you know, I'm kind of like this productivity guy, but I could back up that it was productivity because it is productivity, like making money without doing anything extra. That's the dream. So I taught this woman how to do it. She was a fitness coach, and 2 weeks or so, it was probably a first week or 2 after getting the program out there and like officially launched, she made $1,500. And I was just like, that's so cool. And she had 0 experience whatsoever, like no online presence, nothing. And I helped other people and more people. And that's kind of what just made me decide this is what I want to do.
Love it. Let's dig into what that is, what that looks like, you know, how we can take inspiration and walk away today, making some steps toward doing less and living more. First, let's start with this idea of automation. We talk about it all the time. I think we know what it means, but let's go ahead and define it, what that looks like. And also, when we were talking in the green room, you mentioned, you know, the why of automation in general, not just digital products and making money, but in general for us, what it can mean.
So automation is it's basically just something's happening on your behalf. Think about it as if you have an assistant and you're saying, can you do this for me? And then they do it for you. And automation is just a robot assistant, essentially. For example, if I'm trying to book phone calls in my business and I say, okay, I'm messaging people and they're like, yeah, I'd love to sit down and hop onto a call with you. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, we'll pick a day and we'll go back and forth, emailing back and forth to try and find a day that works for both of us. And then I have to go create a Zoom meeting when we finally decide on the day and then send it to you and be like, does this still work? And if they reschedule or whatever, it's it's this huge thing. And it's just, that's so much wasted time. But you can just sign up for Acuity or Calendly and set it all up. So it's based around your schedule. They pick it for a time that works for them in their schedule. And it's all happening automatically. All you had to do is just send a link. And then it even creates your whole Zoom meeting for you. And then you just show up to the call and it automatically gets on your calendar and all that stuff. So all those unnecessary steps, boom, it's put onto your calendar. This ties into, productivity in general, but it's like the big domino, or Gary Keller, the one thing. And it's such a great question to ask yourself, especially when it comes to building some sort of automation. And that's, what's the one thing I can do that by doing that would make everything else easier or totally unnecessary? And it goes back to that example. If I'm trying to book phone calls and it's just taking up all this time that I could be putting into booking even more phone calls, now, the one thing, I could just sign up for Calendly, set it up, which will take a little bit of time, not very much. And then now I can just send them a link, and then I could just focus on the conversations, copy, paste the link. That's it.
Absolutely. Years ago, it's been a while now, listening to the Asian Efficiency podcast. And that was like one of the first things I was like, that's what I need to automate. Enough of this back and forth. And the thing that I think is so important is that doing something like that does not take away from our connection. It actually enhances it, because you don't have the sort of the frustrating part of the connection. And to that point, this is exactly what happened with our recording today, is that you filled out the form, you went to my calendar link, I happen to use Acuity, and you filled out everything, and then here we are. And now here's the important part. This conversation we're having right now is what's important, not us figuring out, when are you available? What time zone are you in? What's going on here? No, wait, I can't do that. Actually, that exhausted me just describing it. So yeah, that's such a simple place. If you haven't done that, that's a great place to start. But to your point about Gary Keller and the one thing, I love that question because it makes you think big domino. And if I can do something, put just a little work in, what I call priming your productivity, the next time it's going to be a game changer. It's going to feel so different and you're going to show up differently.
Totally. Yeah. So that's what the idea with automations is. Now they can get way more sophisticated and you can get real fancy with it. And this is where you get into like funnels and this sort of stuff. When it came to building my business, again, I didn't just make this stuff up. I'm not going to claim to be some genius or anything. I've gotten pretty savvy over the years. I learned this from Ramit Sethi and Graham Cochran, and they taught me just how they ran their businesses. And I thought, okay, I can do that too. So the system essentially is that you create content online. And this is for people who want to share their knowledge, turn it into an income. You make content online, but not all content is created equally. I'm going to dive into each one of them, just give you like a bird's eye view of it and how this automation works. So you make content online, and then you offer people something that gets them onto your email address, which is a lead magnet. And that is just something valuable that they care about in exchange for their email address. It should be very valuable. It feels generous, and giving it out should feel really good. Like, hey, I have this killer resource, really going to help you. Here you go. You just have to put in your email address. Cool. Then it kickstarts your funnel as soon as somebody opts in. And then you send a series of emails, and then eventually it adds more value, but eventually points to a product and says, hey, I have this really cool program. If you've liked my emails so far, you're going to love this program. Check it out. And it goes to a sales page. But every time they're getting these emails, they're automated. And the links are inside the emails that tell them what to do. Click here if you want to learn more. And it's happening while you're not thinking. But the content piece and the lead magnet really like kickstart that whole thing. Because like I said, not all content is created equal. There's 3 types of content that are evergreen content, which means it can just always be running and working for you. And it works a lot better than social media, in my experience. Social media, it's fine. People build these great businesses with them. It can be a bit of a grind, to be manually posting every day or even scheduling all these different posts. No matter what, it's going to take work. But with podcasting, blogging, or YouTube channels, those are the 3 big evergreen platforms. They're always working for you. And if you have a problem in your life or you're trying to figure out how to do something, you go to Google or you go to YouTube. That's how it works. I'm in Google every single day trying to figure something out or learn something or just curious about something. And content marketing is about answering people's questions. And there's so many ways that you can figure out people's questions. And literally Google tells you. Have you ever seen the people also ask section?
Yes.
It's a gold mine for content creators because it's just a drop down, and it's literally every time you drop down on people also ask, it has to be in Google. And it's just every time you drop down a question, it populates like 3 more. And these are all questions that you can answer inside of your content, or you can make a whole piece of content just about that. And like, that's a great way to get started. But content marketing is just about answering people's questions. Because when I have a question, I go to Google or YouTube. The cool thing is that Google owns YouTube. So I say focus on YouTube because video marketing is way more powerful, and you can turn that into blogs, podcasts, whatever, but make that be your primary thing. That's what I would encourage you to do, but do whatever makes sense to you. And because if I type in how to bench press and you type that into Google, the first thing that pops up is a YouTube video because Google owns YouTube and it wants to give people the best search experience possible. So it's going to say, hey, here's a video that you might like. And then here's some blog posts. Here's other questions that people are asking to make sure that you can get the best experience. But we can see that flip-flop and say, this is the real stuff that people are commonly searching inside of Google. And there's 3 dots next to people also ask. If you click on that, that's what it says. These are questions people commonly search on Google. I'm a user. I go to Google and I type in, how to bench press or how to cook filet mignon or whatever it is. I get blog articles, I get YouTube videos, and I can watch it. And I say, wow, this is really cool. And then if it's like cooking filet mignon, for example, you're like, how can you build a business around that? Inside my content, in the beginning, middle, or end, whatever makes sense, you offer this free thing. And you can say, hey, I have an entire like cheat sheet to cook the perfect filet mignon every single time, depending on what type of temperature you like. You could even do that, like little bullet points of like, here's what you think about. And that's just like, I want to, like, the result is I want to create the perfect filet mignon. This video is going to show you how to do it too. But if you want this guide, you could just whip it out on your phone. Way more convenient than having to come back, try and find the video and all this. And then they're like, that sounds amazing. So cool. Click on the link. It goes for them to put in their email address. They say, I want this thing. It's not join my newsletter because that's not sexy. That doesn't sound cool. It's like, I don't care. No one cares about our businesses. They care about how our businesses can help them. This person wants to cook the best filet mignon every time. So when they make it for their friends, and you could say this on your copy of like, blow away your family when you make them this filet mignon this way, or this secret tip to cooking the perfect filet mignon, something like that. Okay. I'm just throwing noodles. I've never worked with anyone on this specifically, but they opt in, and then that triggers a series of emails. They get a couple emails that say, here's some more tips to like the perfect sides that you can add, or secrets of reverse searing. And you're like busting objections too of like, these are the frustrations that people have, and you're answering these things inside your email. And then eventually on like day 3, you're introduced like, hey, I have like an entire program where I teach you even more than just cooking a filet mignon. I teach you how to prepare 5-star meals for your family with ease. And it's incredibly simple. Look at these people who've been making these meals. They're incredible, and they were blown away. They had no experience cooking, and I just showed them how to do it. And your YouTube channel is also like free content. It's like the biggest course, but this is the step-by-step. You teach them every single piece in a synchronized system that they can follow to really become Gordon Ramsay worthy. You can see the progression here. And the beautiful thing is that it's all automated.
Right. And if I'm understanding this correctly, the way that you're describing it is, okay, we're starting with content. And of course, this is where we get into productivity discussions that I have is like, what's your favorite thing? Like, I love podcasting. Hello, that's why we're here. So, go with what you love. But yeah, YouTube. Oh my gosh, I do so many amazing things because of YouTube. Seriously, YouTube tutorials are amazing. But it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be a lot of content as long as it's effective and valuable content, right? You start with that content. And your point about, like, let's say you have a video on, we're talking about cooking filet mignon, and now I'm getting hungry. But you've got this video, and this is fantastic. But then you're like, hey, but I also have a cheat sheet. And I'm thinking, too, when I like to learn something or I'm working with a recipe, I actually like it visually blog style, as opposed to a video. I don't often follow along with the video. I'm like, because they're either going too fast or too slow or whatever. I just want to read it. I want to skim it. I know what I need to do. I'm good in the kitchen. So to your point, having the different types of content that can be consumed differently, get them on the list. And then you said like day 3 or 4. So We could be talking about inside of 5 emails of information that you're sending sets you up. That could be an automation system that can lead them to this product to make you what we're calling passive income, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's semi-passive income because you have to
Yeah.
make money. But yeah, the 5 emails, literally the overview, because I could spend like an hour just talking about this, is they opt in. They get an email right away. So this doesn't count as the 5 emails that delivers their free thing. If it's a guide or a short video. And if you build a lead magnet, like you can be like, oh my gosh, that sounds complicated. It's not. Ask yourself this question. What is a persistent problem that my audience faces? Everybody has this. Everybody's going through this. And how can I quickly solve that for them in a short PDF or video? And you think about what makes sense to you. The filet mignon, that guide, people want to make the perfect filet mignon every time. I don't want to burn or overcook my steak, especially if I'm cooking for family at a big party. I've done it many times and that's stressful. And when I first did it and they sent me all their temps of being like, I want these temps, you're like, whoa, I was just going to cook some steaks. You know, this is high stakes now. But the guide could be so helpful because then I could look at it and be like, oh, this person wants it rare. This person wants it medium. And these 2 people want it medium rare. So if I take it off at this exact temperature, I'll be good. And it's all in one guide. That's just really simple, graphically looks great. You can build that in Canva. But a persistent problem that your audience faces, your target audience, and how you can quickly solve that for them. Another example is a friend of mine, Greg Faxon, who teaches people how to fill up their client roster. And I've worked with him. He was a coach of mine, and then we've gotten to know each other, and now we're more friends. He knows that one of the most persistent problems that new coaches face, or just coaches in general, is where do I find clients? How do I find my next client, my next set of clients? How do I keep finding clients instead of just having a spurt and then it's gone? Or I can't get my first client. So he made a really short guide that's PDF called 21 Ways to Find Potential Clients. And it's like you read that guide and it's like, oh, you can go to a live event. You're like, there's a live event coming up that has my target audience. And it would be really fun just for me to go to. It has like creators or something like that. Like a big YouTube conference for me would be perfect. Awesome. Because I could talk about people. It creates conversations to have how they can monetize their YouTube channel in ways that they may not be already. And I could get them excited and they're like, well, this is amazing. And then we start working together, you know? So that one nugget could be like, this is the thing. And then you go dive into it. But then it kickstarts the emails and you just teach on the first day, the day after they opt in. And you can set this up in any email thing in like journeys or automations. They walk you through like, when do you want this to go out when somebody opts in? There's a trigger, which is them opting in. So that you teach on that first day, just give them extra value, teach them something new, or, you know, crush objections to like, I hear this stuff from people all the time. Here's how you fix it. Do that on day 1 and day 2. Day 3, you teach again, but this time, halfway through the email, you're going to transition into introducing your program. Like the filet mignon person. I have this whole program. It's $100 and I'm going to teach you how to create Michelin star meals at your home. I would buy that. I'd be like, $100, let's go, you know, $150, whatever, do it. And yeah, if I like learning from them on YouTube, then I'm going to love this course and the value they're adding to me. I feel like they get me too. And then day 4 and day 5 is just straight offer. Day 5, I like to do some sort of like urgency of like, hey, here's why you should really just do this, you know, because I get, and if it's like an evergreen thing, it's hard with urgency because you don't really have, you could do like countdown timers and that gets way more sophisticated. That's kind of fake urgency. So I have like an email where I talk about investing in yourself. And like, look, I tried investing in myself for so long and I was afraid of doing it. I tried to do it for free. And it took me like 3 years until I could make my first $10,000 day. You know, and I just talk about the importance of investing in yourself. Okay. So I'm kind of, and that gives them kind of urgency of like, wow, I get it. I should just do this instead of constantly just consuming all this free stuff when I could just shortcut the stuff right here. So that's what I like to do on day 5, or like a case study too, of like, hey, this is a person who did it. You can go link over to the sales page and it's just like a straight pitch. So that's pretty much the formula. Teach, introduce, pitch, case study pitch.
There you go. That was 5 emails plus the original email where you are delivering, plus whatever it is that you're designing. And I love that you mentioned with an opt-in that it can be that simple, a PDF, a video.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be long too. Greg Faxon, that one, it's 3 pages and it's 21 bullet points. It's so simple. You look at it and it's like a graphic and then 2 or 3 pages of just bullets. That's so easy.
But bringing it back around, it's answering the what is a persistent problem that your audience is facing. And what you had said before, too, that I just want to highlight is answer people's questions.
Yeah.
Answer the questions, solve the problems, and it can be one problem, one question, one problem. And if you solve it well, they will stick with you.
Think about your viewing behavior. Whether it comes to podcasting, I feel like might be a little bit different, but even still, the same rule applies. You probably have 1 to 3, maybe 5 people that are your go-to experts when it comes to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I'm thinking about cooking, I have someone in mind. I'm like, this person comes to my brain because they just make content that I get and it's really good and the meals are awesome. When it comes to relationships, I have an expert that I like to go to. I don't want to learn from all these new people. When people find you and you're their person, you're their person.
Yeah.
Because you answer the questions best. You make the most sense. The way you explain it, the stories you share, it just works. And when people find that, people like comfort. So they're going to be like, I'm just going to go to Lisa. When it comes to productivity stuff, Lisa's my person. When it comes to business stuff, I like James. Cool. It's no sweat off my back because YouTube videos are working for me every single day, all the time. And people watch my videos, they comment, they get on my email list, they email me, and I say, hey, let's hop onto a call. This just happened the other day, paid in full. Because they've been watching my YouTube videos and they already get to know me.
Right.
I'm doing this stuff or I'm hanging out or I'm building something new or coaching clients. And I just send like a quick email, like, cool. Or they buy my program or sign up for Kajabi with affiliates. And then I get passive income from that, and the different pieces of my business. So it can get a lot more sophisticated, but that's the stuff that I get to help people do now.
Yeah. And again, that entire process, which you laid out for us so simply, it speeds up getting them to the really good part, working with you.
And what's cool too, is when you build this system and you know that it's working, you just get to show up and talk about stuff that you already like. If you're a fitness coach too, and you're like, I don't got time to be making videos and all this stuff, you're probably coaching people in your gym, right? You can be like, oh, let's just whip out the camera. Obviously talk, are you cool if I, film this with this thing you're working on, like your technique? Here's how you back squat perfectly. And you're literally coaching someone, which you're already doing anyway, but you just whipped out a camera and filmed it and looked at the camera. That's like the tiny shift that you did. So you're already doing the thing. Myron Golden, he has a big video about how he blew up on YouTube. He's just become huge in a short period of time. That's what he talks about. He does like sermons and he preaches and he teaches all the time. Like every day he's doing this stuff. And all they did was whip out a camera and just film him doing it. That's it. And he just blew up on YouTube. So it's like, do what you're already doing. Just film yourself doing it. And obviously that applies. It's not always exactly that, but when you're doing something like that, or if you're cooking meals, you can just whip out a camera and film yourself just cooking the meals. It kind of depends. With me, I make more videos because I'm not always going to be showing people, here's how you build the online course. But I can make a video where I'm like, here's how I build a whole online course with me. And then it can be a whole video about how to do that. Or how to build a lead magnet. And I'm building my lead magnet that I'm already thinking about building anyway. And I just film the video and I can cut it up, or whatever, edit it if I want to, and just show people the exact process. I'm like, there's my lead magnet. By the way, you can pick it up right now. Link in the description.
There you go. It's that simple. So you brought us through how to so simply think of what a lead magnet could be and then set up the automation to bring your audience to whatever it is you're trying to sell. And to me, that's a great place for us to wrap up. So we don't have too much that we're thinking of, but are you clear on your opt-in, your lead magnet? And are you clear on what that simple automation could be so that it's not the back and forth, it's not the constant social media. And I'm not saying you don't show up on these places and do things, but it frees you up to do the things that you love. Like me, I like making ridiculous reels, and engaging in that way. But it frees you up to get quicker from point A, hi, we just met, to point B, hey, here's something I have for you that's going to change the game. I think that's fabulous. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with to inspire and encourage action today?
On the topic of this, people think, oh, well, then I got to build an online course and all this stuff. And I'd encourage you to eventually, That takes time. That takes energy. And you can always watch my YouTube videos. I've had people message me and be like, I built my whole course, my whole system just from your free stuff. Cool. Perfect. Goodwill. I'm happy with that. But this whole system with the emails, with the opt-in, it can just go to book a phone call with you. Because you can start doing that right now. You could just write out a couple emails, try it out. And I would encourage you to just put emphasis on building an email list. Platforms come and go. Like MySpace disappeared and then it became Facebook, and you're like, if you built your whole audience on MySpace, you'd be like, I lost everyone. But if you had an email list on the side and you built, half of that audience was on your email list and they liked you and you were emailing them this awesome stuff and they bought your products or whatever, and they're just like your more committed people. And then MySpace disappears, like, oh man, I lost half of my audience. I didn't lose my whole audience. Facebook comes up. Hey guys, I just created a new Facebook account. I'm putting a bunch of cool content over there. Give me a follow. And then those people come with you. So you gotta have a lot more control over the crazy space of the internet when you focus on building a list. But if you just focus on building your email list, asking that question, building a simple PDF and promoting it, making content, answering your audience's questions, promote it. And just everything leads to that thing. Then next thing you know, you're like, well, I have 500 people on my email list. I got 1,000 people. I got 5,000 people. Because you never know too, like one piece of video or one video could just go viral. You can speak on a stage in front of 100 people who are your perfect audience and everybody opts in, or half the room opts in. Cool. I just got 50 opt-ins in one day. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like that's what I would encourage you to really focus on.
Great. And it's that one place that you send everyone, no matter where you are, no matter where you capture them from, that one call to action makes it so simple. Okay, fantastic. Now, you've mentioned that YouTube channel, so tell us where we can find you online, and then we'll get into our rapid wrap-up.
Yeah, just go to profityourknowledge.com, and you can just type in @profityourknowledge on YouTube, or if you just type in Profit Your Knowledge on Google, things pop up. Also, if you do want to take advantage, I do have a guide, and it's a title pack, and I really love this. It's like one of my favorite lead magnets. It's extremely valuable because with this pack, you can map out a whole year's worth of content just doing this. It'll give you title formulas, 50 of them. So you made one YouTube video a week answering your audience's questions. This thing's going to lay the whole thing out for you. Check it out. Download it. It's awesome. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but pick it up. And you can get that at profityourknowledge.com/titles.
We'll make sure to have that in the show notes. You ready for the rapid wrap-up?
Let's do it.
The first is a song that lifts my spirits, makes me dance, is
Days Like This by Van Morrison.
That's a good one. Yeah. All right. How about a quote or a mantra, that inspires me, that I love to share with others?
The work will teach you how to do it.
Now, a resource, you did mention Steal Like an Artist and a couple of other resources today in our conversation, but anything else that comes to mind, it could be an app, a book, you name it, just something that's made my life better is?
Kajabi. Kajabi, when it comes to these automations and everything, but it's also the best business tool that you can use for your online business. You can do podcasting, courses, membership sites. Your website is in there, all your emails, everything. It's on one ecosystem. It's incredible.
Now, last but certainly not least, what are you grateful for today, James?
This conversation. Hanging out with you again. It's been a while. You were on my podcast, and I think we have that down in the show notes too, so you should listen to that, whoever's listening to this. But yeah, it's good to see you again and just talk about productivity and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and productivity elevated, which we both believe in, right? Being intentional and really making space for what matters. So speaking of gratitude, I am so grateful we connected and that I could reciprocate the invite, have you here, and thankful for all your knowledge and that you are shining your light so brightly in this world and sharing it with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.